This is the RPM Podcast with Eric Brennan.
The wave around rule in IndyCar is as unfair of an item that I've ever seen in racing. Ever. They're on the same tire strategy, an even better fuel strategy than the two cars who were on the lead lap, and they got their lap back. The IndyCar way of doing it just erased the hard work that Newgarden and Pagano did by trying to get the field further behind them in that first opening run of the race. Doesn't make sense. If the older tires and the slower competitors are at the tail end of the pack, how is that going to be a problem?
Because you're going to catch them really quick.
It doesn't matter. That's their disadvantage. They should pit and stay a lap down and then have to find another way to get back on the lead lap. And the thing is, if they do take that risk, then chances are they're going to get lapped again anyway. That's
You might be one of the only people that don't like this.
That is so not true. I have no proof to that, though, because I couldn't find that story anywhere. But this is my podcast, people. Mine. I'm Eric Brennan, and that was me getting angry.
It's not.
You're guaranteed for more of that, probably, especially sitting with these guys.
This is my podcast now.
You have no idea what I just went through. None. You might get a glimpse of it.
We all had our clothes on, so it wasn't that bad.
We recorded a whole segment. In my opinion, it was dog poop. Eric's still a little butthurt about that. Until I explain, you have to lick it before you stick it. And now we're good, so let's do the show.
That kind of put everything into perspective.
Eric was butthurt until I said lick it before you stick it, and I put a smile on his face.
And Eric Brennan
So now
is
we're
not a
gonna
liquor,
show.
folks.
But he has a sticker. That's not an insult, Eric.
I don't even know what you just said, so I'm going to have to wait till I listen
Sam
back.
knows, right?
Oh, yeah. I know.
Well,
Why is your voice so deep on this show? Your real voice is not that deep.
because his microphone is pointing
His shies
towards
have
heaven.
finally dropped.
Well, hello, everybody.
Go with the show.
And
You want to introduce us, or
welcome, I'm trying, to the Blackjack edition of the RPM Podcast. As the intro nicely mentioned, I'm Eric Brennan, alongside of Eric Graham. Across from him, Samuel Ballard Jr., and, of course, the man who puts everything together in the Matthews Family Studios, Josh Matthews.
I made it this week?
You know, what's funny, Josh, we were all – actually, I need to apologize. I didn't even do this in our opening segment. Last week, and I'm not going to get too much into this, but I quietly hoped for a rain out at Wall. And it
you're
kind
a
of happened.
dick.
I told everyone at Wall what he did.
Like I went to Indianapolis and I was gonna lose my 6-year streak of never missing a show there, and I didn't even wish for rain. I would never do that.
Well, I kind of did, even though it was in a jokingly matter, and I kind of screwed a lot of people. So I'm sorry, but
Actually, you might have helped me because I might be able to find a way to get in a car for September 10th, which is when the triple 25s for the factory stocks got rescheduled to. But we're going to recap that later at the end of the show.
yeah, the schedule looks great. One place which was not affected by weather was Loudon, New Hampshire, which is usually a really practical stop for the Cup Series because, I mean, let's face it. Now, I've never had the chance to go to New Hampshire. And
Not practical?
well, maybe that's not the right word. I've been struggling to find the right words tonight, I figure. However,
What do you mean? No, I'm kidding.
you usually get a good bang for your buck when you go up there. You usually get about 4 or 5 races you can go see. This week they had 2 modified races, one on Friday, one on Saturday. You had the E-Series race, the Xfinity race, and then, of course, the Cup Series race. Don't really understand why the crowd looked as poor as it was, and I've usually been one to try to defend that. But nevertheless, the race went off without a hitch. It looked like it was going to be either Kyle Busch or Martin Truex Jr. who would walk away with the trophy. And then out of nowhere came a third Toyota driven by Matt Kenseth, and he grabbed his second win of the year.
What happened to Truex?
It's shifter problems. The shifter
Oh,
actually
it couldn't be fixed on pit road.
They
I
had to give
remember
him a
that.
pair of channel locks. And
No, that didn't even work because they said it broke right above the transmission hub below where the shifter comes up to the floor. And actually,
They got to
I
stop
think,
with those fancy lightweight materials.
I don't know who to credit for this. It might have been Mark Martin. No, Dave Moody said that if he got on an airplane and saw Martin Truex Jr. on it, he would turn around and because that's how bad his luck has been this season. And also, somebody else was having bad luck, mostly on pit road, and it was actually the first time we've seen him be so vocal, was Kevin Harvick. After he had a car that was probably top 3, And every time he came down pit road, he would go back to seemingly 11th. That was like the average number.
You know what's weird about luck? It's kind of like life. It always ends up balancing out. So maybe he's having all his bad luck now, and then in those final 10 races, his luck will turn.
But it always seems like Kevin Harvick's crew is always messing up.
Yeah, and Harvick kind of called it out. In fact, in his post-race interview, he said, if anything's going to be changed, it's going to have to come from the top. So that's pretty much calling on your organization to do something, and it's Tuesday night.
Hey, Tony, get off your tractor at ElDora.
There you go. And as a matter of fact, speaking of Tony, contrary to what happened in Kentucky, he had some nice words to say about Goodyear, which was another awkward thing. Maybe because he finished second.
Cats and dogs living together.
But the driver who
mass
did finish
hysteria.
First, it turned out to be Matt Kenseth. And Kenseth, as we said earlier, got his second win of the year. He's in pretty good, shape to line up a championship run once the chase starts, which is no surprise. However, the car ended up failing post-race inspection, which we've seen before, including the way that it failed post-race inspection was on that new laser rig that NASCAR has, whatever. Sam, you alluded on it earlier. This may be one of those like innocent to proven guilty things because that laser system is not always 100% accurate.
I mean, it's technology. I think it's difficult. I mean, I said earlier in the show, before we started recording, that it was quick. I mean, I always thought it was quick that they said, "Oh, Matt Kenseth didn't pass post-race inspection." It was like I got that on my newsfeed before him actually winning the race. I mean, it happened real quick. So
now NASCAR had problems. I don't know if it was Kentucky. It might have been Kentucky, where actually that laser grid went down. And now it seems like Kenseth's car was off a little bit. And when this has happened in the past, when drivers have been given a P3 penalty, which in short is 15 points, you're also at risk of possibly losing the bonus points that you got for winning the race. Also a fine up to $20,000 to $50,000. Your crew chief could be suspended for just one race. And, of course, you'll be on probation to the end of the calendar year, usually just for the crew chief.
And all that is nothing except for the crew chief.
Now, here's the thing. If this was to happen at your local short track, and like Sam mentioned, this happened pretty quickly. Usually, at your local short track, you go home or you go out afterwards, you sit around at a local campfire, you go home, you sleep off what you just did, you wake up the next morning, and then you find out that who went to victory lane at the local short track got the win taken away.
Oh, you're saying from a fan's point. I'm sorry. I was thinking as a driver.
Even from my perspective, with my experience at Wall, as one of the announcers there, at Wall Stadium Speedway, I've had occasions where I've made it back to Staten Island from the racetrack. It's about a 45-minute drive. Ate dinner, gone to bed, woke up the next morning, saw Jeff Cravat's press release, and found out that the driver that I called to win the factory stock race didn't win the factory stock race. Why doesn't this happen in NASCAR?
You know what one of the biggest complaints about short track racing is?
That
exact thing. Why are they taking the wins away? So, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I think NASCAR feels they'll lose the integrity if they take the win away. It used to not be a big deal before the chase, but now with the chase, it gives you a guaranteed berth into the playoffs, quote-unquote.
I kind of like it, though. Take it away from him. Sorry, man.
Well,
it's weird. You know, it's weird. It's really polarizing because half the people feel your way and half the people feel the other way. So it's really, do you really want to go to a race, see somebody win, and then find out they didn't win?
But, I mean, at the end of the day, the way I would see it as is, all right, you cheated, so to speak.
And then does a second-place car get that win in the chase?
Yeah, Tony gets the lobster. I'm sure he could down the lobster. Give it to him.
He could down a few lobsters. Like we said, he's my fat race car driver hero. He's like somebody I look up to.
But now, all right, before we get to the NASCAR
Fat Kids
level,
Unite.
let's look at this from a short track level. Now, local writer Ellsworth Boyce, who actually has a website here in New Jersey called racingaroundjersey.com, he kind of covers the three major short tracks, which include Wall Stadium Speedway, Bridgeport Speedway, and New Egypt Speedway. And he recently put an article out there, and I say recently, probably about a month ago, saying short tracks need to figure out a way to not disqualify somebody or not take a win away after a driver wins a feature event.
Well, his point was, why aren't the cars looked at beforehand? Do you understand, like, basically at Tech they pick about 5 issues, like 5 possible things that could be illegal, and that's what they look at. But you're talking over 100 things, and you want to check the cars every week for 100 things?
That's like trying to see flaws in a girlfriend before you start dating her. You just can't do it.
That's a really good reference, actually.
Sam might just ended this segment.
Oh, my bad.
To the article that Ellsworth written to his defense, he said maybe you could, tell drivers ahead of time what they're going to be checking for, but then
and then everything
you're
else
just,
is illegal.
That's
exactly what you don't want to do.
That's like when the state or local police says there's going to be a DWI checkpoint
and
here.
You know
Let's
what?
avoid that route.
Yeah, but Eric, they do. It's called the rule book. They say this is what
That
we're
is a
going to
good
check.
point. Yes.
And then they pick 5 of them. Otherwise, tech would take 45 hours. They'd be done on Monday.
However, I think in the world of short track, and this is where NASCAR stands on their pedestal and say, this is why we won't take the win away, because I want to be careful.
I think they want the fans to go home saying, all right, I saw the race. I know who won, And you don't want to find out that everything you just saw
Why
was
not,
invalidated.
though? I would like that.
I figure there's more to lose and more to gain in short track racing than there is in NASCAR racing when you look at people who don't pass tech.
Well, the way NASCAR has done things, we discussed this before, where they don't discuss their calls. They make their calls, and that is it. Whereas F1 has been,
F1's great.
They let people know this is what the problem was.
They explain exactly why they made the call, and
it's
I think if NASCAR did that, that's a problem with. I hate putting down race fans, but race fan. All right, you ready for me to have an Eric Brennan moment? Race fans are kind of ignorant because. See, this is what you sound like, Eric. So, because
That's fantastic.
but it's because it's not explained to them. Like anyone that watches baseball, they probably played Little League. If you watch football, you probably played at least in the yard. You've played football. People haven't raced that are fans, so you don't understand the rules.
I mean, the
completely.
closest they've gotten is the go-karts at a boardwalk, which
Right.
I mean, that's
not even
it's
an accurate
fun.
representation of
Here's-
a car.
it's
the
fun,
one-
but it's not. Yeah.
Here's the one thing I will say that they did right was about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, they announced this new penalty system where it's P1 through 6, obviously P being the lightest, 6 being the worst. As we said earlier, this Kenseth penalty may fall right in the middle at a 3.
P being position.
Well, no, P being level, like penalty
Oh, okay.
1, penalty 2, penalty 3.
Okay, yeah,
Where
because
I
if you're a road course,
I'm thinking road
Right,
course.
yeah.
where-
Yeah.
But they say P3. That means you move back 3 positions.
If you do something wrong, you're going to fall into one of those categories, as contrary to a road course official where you kind of have to make it up based on a set of circumstances. There's no black and white rule that if you like
But
the time
as a
penalties
road
in Formula
course,
One.
but as a road course official, when something happens and then it happens again, you have to use the same penalty.
You try to set a precedence, which we'll
Correct.
talk about later. But on the NASCAR side, we
Which
kind of know what to expect.
Horrible
with
one was
Stewart.
set in IndyCar, which I think Sam's going to go off on later.
Right.
No.
But okay, yes or no, and we'll go around the table. Do you think it's time for NASCAR to start taking wins away?
No.
Sam
Yes.
and Josh.
I think cheating is cheating, and a penalty is a penalty. And if it means you got to take a win away, then that's the punishment.
Okay, now
Nothing frustrates fans more than going to a race and then finding out a day later that what they saw isn't what actually happened.
But let's be honest. We said it last week. There are more people that watch this podcast than actually sit in the stands. So how many people are you really pissing off?
Well, you don't want to
Currently
piss off
in
the handful
NASCAR.
you have left. I mean, but now since you guys said yeah, because I'm on the fence to be honest with you. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. I think social media is strong enough where if they do take the win away, I'll know, like you said, Sam, within the hour that something changed. But I don't know to what extent.
Although the Kenseth situation is a little different because they are taking that car back to the R&D center. So we don't know exactly what's happened as of
And usually that
as
means-
of 8:51 on Tuesday.
Usually that means something. They found something.
They've been taking cars back to the R&D center every week. They usually take first, second, and a random or something like that.
But it could also go by severity. I mean, who was doing the little pinholes in the tires?
Newman's team about 2 years ago.
Right.
They were using the bleeder valves, which I think that resulted in like a P5, which he lost. But I don't think he lost his position in the race. He lost a ton of points, but I think they still got prize money. And if he would have won, they probably
what are
would've got
points
those.
worth anymore?
Well, that's the thing.
Maybe
As long as
they
you're
need
top
to
30, right?
Maybe
And you
not
have a win.
necessarily take
But-
away the wins, but maybe reevaluate the penalties. Like
Did-
points mean jack.
Right. And
Money means jack.
to Josh's point,
$15,000. That's like $2 to us.
if we were to live by the letter of the law, what Josh said that cheating is cheating, What about this new lug nut rule? Is that worth taking a win away if somebody's got 4 lug nuts on the right front when they pull into victory lane?
But if they have the rule book, then they know what the rules are. Don't break it.
But that's the thing. That how tight are we going to make this box? I mean, we may end up going back to 8th place to grab a winner at one point. You know,
I see
which
where
has
you're getting,
happened at
short tracks.
Wall, for example. But
Right.
short tracks, yeah.
You're looking for where do you draw the line? Where's the
Yes,
gray area,
exactly.
or how much gray area? And the thing is, are you going to allow for race damage? I mean, what if they pull was it Newman or
But
Edwards?
race damage doesn't happen anymore, Josh.
Well,
we
no.
talked about this. Cars have no contact.
Yes.
Maybe if they hit a wall, Darlington.
Well, let's go with
Like Darlington, what car is going to make the
hang
laser grid at
on.
Darlington?
Daytona or Talladega, where pretty much the wheel is gone after they've flown through the fence, crossing the line, like how Edwards did. I mean, if that was, let's say that happened right at the line, and hell, let's say he got the win. Even
Well, that car definitely didn't make weight.
exactly. So I mean,
Wow.
that's an issue. That well, do
No,
you
I
allow
mean,
for?
that is a good point because we've seen there was an all-star race, Carl Edwards one, where he ripped the front splitter off the car doing a burnout. There was the infamous Jimmy Johnson.
I was
win
about to say that.
There's a lot
where
of those
Jack
Jimmy
Ganassi
Johnson
cracked
wins
the back.
where
They wanted him to scuff the back of the car against the wall. So that does happen, which is why I can't draw that line. So I say leave it the way it is, and that's my
That's
story.
kind of
and
what
I'm
I
sticking
just
to
said.
it.
All right. Well,
I think we're divided.
we are. We absolutely are divided.
Maybe
on
if
that.
it's
and
something.
that's a good thing.
Remember when I'm sorry, Josh. Remember with Michael Waltrip when they found like jet fuel in the carburetor?
Yes.
Maybe stuff like that should be you lose your
Right.
win.
I think what do they call it? The sacred.
I don't
three?
think laser grid
Your-
should be losing your win.
Your fuel,
after
your
a
engine,
race.
your tires. I think if you mess with those 3, then you should have it taken away from you.
Now let's go. You were asking about the lug nut. Let's have fun with this for just a second here.
Mm-hmm.
You like pit stops. You like pit strategy. I hate it. I just hate it. I just want to drive. Okay, let's get the car set up, and I just want to drive. Now, was that lug nut not on there because of that's what got them the lead on pit road, and that made the difference? If that made the difference, then yeah, why not take the
That's
win
a
away?
road course mentality. Did they gain an advantage?
I
But
think it's hard to tell.
if it's it wasn't on tight enough and it kind of fell off out in the track and it really didn't impact anything, then no,
But you should
as
have,
happens.
You pay the guys to tighten all the lug nuts in the car.
Well,
so
then fire that guy.
Exactly, and then screw. If you
No, but
want the
lug nut
race and you have no
penalty
lug
calls
nuts,
for the tire changer to also be suspended. So they're already trying to cover those bases. But do you multiply that by taking a win away if a
Yeah.
winning car is found to have only 4 out of 5?
yeah. I don't see why not.
If it was found to
Sam believes in the death penalty. I think we found that out pretty quick.
No.
Sam says F them. They're out of NASCAR.
Well, let's be honest now.
You get put down the ARCA for 6 races.
I just think that, Tony Stewart finishing second. Monday morning quarterback. People probably would not mind seeing him win again, but it's like rain races then.
But you can't officiate that way. You have to officiate. It doesn't matter. Say
No,
who's a driver nobody really likes.
Kyle Busch.
No,
I love him.
But-
whoa.
People completely
But
changed
my
on Kyle
point-
Busch last year, though. When he came back from that.
You should see.
I think
the
Keselowski
reaction.
is the one that I think.
What Joe Logano, squinty douchey eyes.
Yes,
I've
squinty
always
douchey
wanted to
eyes.
say that on the podcast.
Oh, now there you go.
Yes, it's a red letter day for Sam.
But now, wait a minute, though. I think that it doesn't really matter who it is, though. It should.
Well, it shouldn't matter who it
was. Is that it doesn't matter who it was. As a fan, the 3 of them that were in the grandstands this past Sunday, they would have liked to see that.
Cold-blooded.
It's bad. But I get what you're saying, and
That's what my point was.
it's about
I'm
9
not a big
p.m.
Tony
on
Stewart
Tuesday
fan.
night as we record this, and so far nothing has come down yet. It'll probably come down tomorrow, and I'm assuming it's just going to be a standard P3 penalty. He'll keep the win. He may lose the bonus points for the chase stuff, and I don't see that changing, which may be a good thing. It may not. Now, the other thing we're expecting to come down tomorrow, according to Hendrick Motorsports, is a decision on what Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going to do come this Sunday at Indianapolis. Now, we didn't get to talk about it last week because it broke after we recorded, but Jr., of course, sat out this past Sunday due to concussion-like symptoms. Alex Bowman filled in for him in the car, and he actually was doing a great job, so they cut down a rear tire and got up into the fence. Great opportunity for Bowman, but for Jr. to go out on a limb and admit that he wasn't feeling well, which is something that probably 95% of the field wouldn't do because of the pressure they're under to perform. I think it was a great move by him and perhaps a calling on the sanctioning body to take control of this, because I think if it was another driver other than Junior, they wouldn't be so willing to make sure they were okay, considering where Junior's at in his career and in his life.
I see where you're going with that. It's if you step out of the car, and basically it's Junior. I mean, America's boy, whatever you want to call him, I don't care. Redneck Nation.
Wait, Trump is an American's boy?
We're not going there. Don't you dare. Don't you dare, Sam. I will mute you.
The threats of our producer.
Just wait till you hear your intro next week. I'll get even. Anyway, so yes, I mean Junior is in it's such a big name, personality, merchandising, everything behind it, that he could kind of do whatever he wants, until he, I mean, I don't want to go too far off topic with that, but you're saying somebody lower like Alex Bowman or just any of your starting park guys, they don't want to risk getting out of the car for fear of losing their ride.
Right.
Because they say anybody else hops in, does better, outperforms them for any reason, whether it be luck or they are better. Boom, you're out of a job.
The problem is you need the drivers to be on board with this, because concussion protocol, you have to say I have this problem.
Yeah.
So until the drivers are on board, like the NFL players are now, because they've seen players committing suicide.
I don't think they all are.
Not all of them, but there are a lot. Like the NFL players will say they've seen their former players committing suicide and having all these horrible after effects to their NFL career. That hasn't really happened in racing yet.
But here's the thing.
The only thing you could possibly argue is the Dick Trickle incident.
Yeah.
That's actually a very, very good point that I never thought of at all. And actually, I mean, there's a few other situations like that, and I don't really want to get into them here. Perhaps we'll talk about it off air. I was going to mention Kevin Grubb.
We managed to say Dick Trickle on the show without smirking.
No. Actually, you know
we
what?
can be serious.
I'm going to say, just because I opened up Pandora's box, Kevin Grubb was a NASCAR Busch Series driver in the early 2000s. He had a couple of concussions, one of which he refused to take a drug test, and failing that drug test, he got suspended by NASCAR, and a couple years later, he committed suicide. And I don't recall if drugs were a factor.
But then you saw drivers like Jerry Nadeau who kept saying, "Hey, I'm having this problem, and he lost his career.
Right, and
he kept admitting to having all these symptoms, and he lost his career.
Well, he actually almost got killed at Richmond, and then the doctor told him he couldn't drive again.
Right.
But you see this in hockey, and it's been like what was it, Lindros had so many concussions that they said if you take another hit, you're out, you are done, and I think it was later in his career anyway at that point.
And then you don't want to see race car drivers turn into like Muhammad Ali, like where they can't talk because they...
Well, that's the thing. I don't want to see the sport put in a position where something like that does happen, or a driver had a pre-existing unbeknownst to him or her or the series brain injury, and it get magnified with an on-track incident, and then the sport has to explain why they didn't protect their drivers.
You want to put it on NASCAR, the drivers need to... Junior's making a good first step by...
He did. He
setting
really did.
An example. The drivers need to be sold on it.
But on the
it's
contrary,
not going to work without the drivers being sold on it.
Looking at it from a broader perspective, if I'm one of those drivers, and like I said, I broke my hand a couple years ago, and I could not stay home from work because somebody else would fill that void.
But if you were to Dale Jr. of your job, then you wouldn't have a problem.
Right. If I was in that
life,
position,
man.
I would
work harder, Eric.
I understand that, but NASCAR really needs to take the first step and try to figure out a way to take control of this. Maybe just follow the similar path the NFL is doing.
But I also don't think that it's just only the Alex Bowmans. Like, I think the Greg Biffles, the Ryan Newmans,
Anybody.
guys, I mean, besides, Johnson, Gordon, if he comes back. I mean, look, guy's out of the sport for not even a full year, and he has a ride again.
Well, and that was my next point, Sam, and I'm glad you brought that up. It's I honestly think that the way that the wording is being put out there, I don't think Junior's going to race this weekend, and it was announced last Friday, which made that all the more obvious to me, that because Jeff Gordon had a pre-committed trip to France last week, that's how Bowman got the nod, but Gordon may be back in the car, which you were talking about how fickle fans are. I would figure everybody would be thrilled to see Gordon come back for a one-off.
A lot of people
of
are.
all places at Indy, I'm seeing a lot of people complain about it, and I'm very surprised.
I don't.
What do they want?
A lot of it may have to do with his Hall of Fame eligibility because he may push it back another year or something like that. And here's the really ironic thing. I was shocked to realize that if Gordon comes out of retirement and races this Sunday in that 88 car, it'll be the first time ever in his Cup career he did not drive a car number 24, ever. And how bizarre is that would happen after his retirement? He went his whole career in one car, one number.
Remember when he was in the number 1 Baby Ruth car? I know that was Xfinity.
Busch Grand National or Xfinity, yeah. But I think that was pretty bizarre.
It's because Downer Jr. has a soft head and he can't take the wrecks apparently.
My goodness, Sam, that's terrible. You're hated now.
Wow.
You can follow him on,
No, it's good that Earnhardt's...
I don't know, Facebook, whatever.
It's good that Earnhardt... Yeah, you can send all your hate mail to Sam Ballard Jr. on Facebook. It's good that Earnhardt's... You need guys like Earnhardt to take that step.
But I also think that if this was like 2008 when Junior just started Hendrick Motorsports, I don't think you may not have seen Earnhardt do
That's a perfect
But
point.
his dad would not have missed a race for this.
Who?
Are we really going to go down that road?
Well,
I know, obviously.
But I think Junior's at a point in his life now where he's a few months out from getting married. He's got everything he's got. He's talked about his racing career winding down. He's looking at ways to have more fun. I just think that he knows that for the second chapter of his life, for the next chapter of his life, he wants to have all his marbles. Other guys may not be thinking that way.
Well, I also think that, now kissing Earnhardt's ass now, that he proved himself in that car over the last, 2 or 3 years. 5-6 years ago, I thought Earnhardt was a waste of space at Hendrick. I thought you could have got a newer guy in there, with more talented, younger talent, besides, Casey Kane. But now, he won races. He's consistent. He works with 2 or 3 different crew chiefs that at the end of the day, he deserves that ride.
Yeah, I think he couldn't get his hands.
He did have a
on the
bad
new car.
stretch.
I just think
yeah.
he couldn't get his hands.
Casey
on the new
Kane
car.
was really good before he went to Hendrick.
Yeah.
He's like the modern-day Jamie McMurray. If you remember when McMurray went to Roush, McMurray was the hot young driver with Sabatas, and then he went to Roush and did Jack Poop.
Yes.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yourself. Good job there, Eric.
He said Jack
I know
Roush.
it's worked for you guys to put bleeps in, so I'm trying.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it. We'll see where it goes. Hopefully, Junior does have a ripple effect on the rest of the drivers, and hopefully it also kind of – I wanted to kind of rattle NASCAR a little bit to maybe put a couple more preventative measures in place to make sure drivers are looking out for themselves.
We will send this to their office right away. We'll send this down to Daytona.
And I'm sure they'll watch it.
I'm sure they'll love it. Now, speaking of which, there's one more bit of NASCAR news that we're going to talk about on the other side of the break, and it's something that I think a lot of us are very passionate about, and some of you may be as well, and that's dirt racing and the Truck Series. And we'll talk about that and where its place belongs on the Truck Series calendar, whether we think it's a good idea or not, and I'm sure a whole bunch of other things will come out of that as well. And then later on in the show, we're going to talk about IndyCar, Toronto, and, of course, our very own famed short track, Wall Stadium Speedway. We'll be right back to the RPM Podcast. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, this is Josh from the RPM Podcast. Like our show but hate Eric Brennan's New York accent? Well, follow us on Facebook.com/RacingPodcastNJ, and he promises to lose it.
Welcome back to the RPM Podcast. Digging this music. I went to a wedding Saturday. I danced all night, although some people called it like jogging in place.
You dancing?
It was there was a lot of like prerequisites
Like
to that.
moving?
You were drunk.
So, what? I
Prerequisites.
liked my ginger ale spiked.
You were hammered.
It was awesome. In fact, you dance good when your calves are hurting like the next day. It was amazing. It was a great wedding.
Could just be dehydration.
Yeah.
It was no. Congratulations to Christina and John
Or
Cacciatore.
being bent over.
They're in
on it.
Aruba right now, so there's no way they're going to be listening to this. What did you just say?
I said you must have had a really great night.
Well, I'm expecting to have an even better night tomorrow, which for many of you, when you're listening to this, if it is on Wednesday, it will be tonight, because the Truck Series is back on dirt at ElDora.
Yay.
Time to get dirty.
I'm pumped.
Yippee.
Yay.
How do you not like this race?
I love the concept.
It's just
The
not
race is crap. Sorry.
They have to do it at Grandview.
All right.
Well, that would be awesome.
That would be a...
See? Problem solved, NASCAR. Do it at
I don't
Grandview.
even think ElDora is the problem. I just don't think the track is right. It's a single lane track. Basically, it's Darlington. They have to ride the wall.
yeah, rim ride around the whole
How
track.
is it-
During the heats are pretty entertaining because it's more two groove, and then they kind of just seem to go right into the. They can hear you. They seem to just go right into the feature right after the heats.
What just happened?
I don't know. They're
So-
conspiring.
I'm not. I can't, Josh. I mean, I agree with you. It's like Darlington on dirt, and I'm actually not a big ElDora fan, so
You say ElDora?
ElDora.
No, ElDora is a cool track. I think you only see it for that truck race. So you don't-
ElDora.
ElDora, that's what I said.
ElDora.
He's saying ElDora.
He
I'm
said
saying-
ElDora.
I'm
That's
saying,
all right.
I'm saying ElDora.
I hate ElDora, but ElDora, I mean, that's a great track.
The concept is awesome. I don't want the event to end. I just want them to do some track prep before the feature.
I think Tony Stewart does. He drives on the.
No, they really don't. In the last couple of years, they really haven't touched it before.
I've
the
seen
feature.
Prelude work out
Yeah, I
to
like
be a pretty
Prelude.
good race a couple times.
They have very good races there.
That's good.
And
But
dirt's awesome.
the truck-
I feel it's a horrible representation of dirt racing. I think fans that don't normally see dirt races aren't getting an accurate portrayal.
Okay,
of
did
dirt
you
racing.
guys ever see the ARCA series when it runs on the horse tracks?
It's
at
very
DuPont
similar to that.
right, so
It's
it-
a novelty. It's not a great race.
Right, but first of all, it is a great race. But
like a
second of
short
all,
track.
It's a great event. It's not a great race.
it's a great race.
It's a great event.
Okay, so hold on a second. Let's go back 2 years where Kyle Larson is chasing down.
And then he hit the
I'm
wall and
pretty sure
couldn't
it was
do
Bud
nothing.
Wall. No, he hit the wall about 8 times and then couldn't do nothing.
That was
I'm getting mad, so I don't know if you want to play
But it
yourself.
was
No,
cool.
no.
But
But that's what he had to do to even try to catch him. Like
no, that's because
because
Wallace
it's a
was-
single lane track.
No,
And dirt racing in general, one of the perks of dirt racing is that it's not single lane.
I don't really agree with you because a lot of times and you're going to reference my trips to New Egypt, but I've seen dirt tracks that are usually single file, and that's whether or not you include World of Outlaws or dirt late
Come to
models.
Grandview with us sometime, and we'll change your mind.
I
about
don't
dirt.
know. It's the vehicle. It's the fact that it's a full-bodied stock car that wasn't designed to be tossed into the corner on a dirt track, and that's what
yeah,
they're
but
doing.
they're changing the setup for that, and there are
But
truck
watch the
series that
heat
run on
races
dirt.
are more exciting than the feature.
I
yeah.
disagree with you entirely.
Norm Benning.
First of all,
Well, that was just cool.
is this
'cause it's
that
Norm
you
Benning.
Yeah.
like? Do you go to bed around because the race starts late? It starts at 9 o'clock. That's my one complaint. The
Whoa,
race
whoa,
starts a
whoa.
little late.
Well, it's because they're running heat races and everything else
Yeah, but
for
you can still-
hours
you
and
can still
hours
back
and
it up.
hours and hours. It's just
Don't get rid of it.
So wait,
They
do you
need to
not like
condense it.
anything?
No, don't. You
I'm a
don't.
commie, right?
No, I mean about the truck race at
He admits
ElDora.
it.
Do you
I
not
like the idea. I think the racing is
don't get rid of
piss
it.
poor. The,
Right.
the actual
The
product is
feature
generally.
I enjoy the heat races.
All right.
That's
the
because
heat
you're a
races
heat race
was-
winner.
That's right.
But you might
Don't you forget that.
Christopher Bell won
He pays me
last
to say
year
that every week,
with a
folks.
great slide job pass on Bobby Pierce, who, by the way, nobody ever heard of Bobby Pierce except for those who
Well.
are around dirt tracks all the time. And he gets his shot in a team that never won a pole prior to him driving the truck, and he came about one wall slap away from winning that race. What more do you want? I mean, listen, you want to see races where drivers are able to showcase their talent. I think this is the one truck race on the schedule where drivers can showcase
go
their
to like
talent.
I don't want to compare like sprint cars, but go to like a late model dirt race. Okay.
But it's not the same. We're not talking about cars that were designed for
but
this.
the track, the heats are fun. They need to redo the track. Make it like Supercross. They redo the track for Supercross.
Listen, if you go back and you watch last year's race, they were running 4 wide throughout the middle of the pack. They were. I'm telling you, we could pull it up right now.
Mom and Dad are fighting again.
You guys don't like it. Why don't you like it?
I was starting to say that, and you interrupted.
Go ahead, Josh.
All right. It tends to be a one-lane track. Okay. Heat races aren't the worst, but it takes forever. You get excited. It starts the whole televised broadcast starts what, like 5, 6 o'clock?
Single truck qualifying will start at 5. He'd start about
Okay.
7:30, and the race is
Okay.
supposed to go green at 9.
Exactly. So you're watching. It's already 4 hours of this, and I love the idea, but you're watching 4 hours of it. Like, come on, now
yeah,
I
but
want to
if
see the.
you go to a track on a Saturday night, it's like 4 hours.
Oh yeah, but on a Wednesday night when I need to get up in the morning.
you don't have to watch qualifying. I mean, I think they should.
But the
back
point
it
is,
up,
I
but-
want to go to bed.
So your argument against it is that they should move
You
everything
sound like an
up
old
by
man,
like an hour
Josh.
and a
What-
half.
all right,
Yeah.
so wait a minute. If it was on Friday night, would you feel the same?
I'd feel a little bit better about it on a Friday night because then I could stay up and.
So your problem is that it's on a Wednesday.
That's one minor issue of it. But overall, the product has still not been that great for the racing. It just hasn't provided.
I think it's on a Wednesday, so they can get like Sprint Cup drivers there and Xfinity drivers there. It lets
It's
them...
to accommodate a lot of schedules, but the racing action isn't there for me. It's like, okay, great, and I don't know.
The thing is, I think if you're if you watch a lot of dirt racing, then you don't really like it. But if you don't watch any dirt racing, it's amazing. Does that make sense?
I get where you're coming from, but I don't necessarily agree with you.
It's
that's
one
fine.
lane
That's
up
what
by
we
the
do.
wall, and somebody will try to make a move. They dive down low, but it doesn't stick at all. I mean,
Which is like a lot of dirt racing. There's a lot of slide jobs that have to be done to make a pass. And
exactly.
There was
But
passing.
aside from sliding up and then using the wall to help not go into a parking lot, that's the only way they can really do it there. It's there. There's no. You need another groove. You need the bottom line to have something. Even if you want to do a slide job, you got to give the bottom line something.
I just think that's the essence of dirt racing. You basically watch an asphalt race on a dirt track.
Yeah.
I think it's a poor. I'm not saying it's an awesome event. It's very cool, but it's a poor representation of dirt track racing, in my opinion.
Top 4 of last year's race, right? In fact,
I don't care who
we'll
finished
say
where.
with top
It doesn't,
3.
Yeah.
it doesn't validate your
Christopher
point.
Bell, Bobby Pierce, Tyler Reddick. All 3 with dirt track racing experience.
Of course.
Obviously, what they know matters. And it
Okay.
paid off.
That has
And-
nothing to do with the product.
Yes, it does, because you're seeing people who actually know how to drive on dirt. It's like saying Dale Earnhardt was a great super speedway racer, or Brad Keselowski's a great super speedway racer. You see a driver who's really good at what they do. One of the biggest stories going into the weekend is that Stuart Friesen bought a truck, or one of his team members bought
If
a
you
truck.
played a
and we're gonna
football
get to see what
game-
he does.
And you played on a field that was twice as big, the NFL players would still play better than like the Major League Baseball players. It doesn't mean it would be a better product.
I didn't necessarily understand that analogy.
That was
I
your
got it.
analogy saying that the dirt track racers are better there.
They're playing on their playground, so they know what to do.
But obviously,
so
the
you're
cars
seeing
are
cream
sliding
rise
out
to the
more.
top. So obviously, it's not a matter of the racing being bad, because these guys could still
But it's
get it
more
done.
like how you qualify.
I wouldn't agree with that. I mean, in this particular case, Bell started 4th, Pierce
And,
won the pole.
okay, he gains 3
Reddick was
spots.
5th. Eric
That
Jones.
means there was hardly any movement.
Eric Jones started 19th, finished 4th. Daniel
Am I
Hemrick started
effing wrong?
17th, finished 5th. I'm telling
Thank
you
you
right.
for proving my point.
I'm telling you right now that you're wrong. It's 4th was Eric Jones, started 19th. 5th, Daniel Hemrick started 17th. 6th, Austin Dillon started 10th. There are guys who worked their way through the field.
And how many of
And
those cars that didn't just lost because they were slapped in the wall nonstop and they eventually knocked like a...
21 trucks finished on the lead lap. You go all the way back to 26, where they were only 2 laps down. 27th was only 3 laps down, and only 3 trucks did not finish the race. So it wasn't like a lot of guys were wrecking out of this thing, and that's how they got to the front. They drove their way to the front, which
But
is
guys
possible.
are damaging their cars just because they slapped the wall. It's cool.
Be-
It's not an accurate portrayal. It's one of the cooler truck races of the year.
What about they put dirt back onto Bristol like they normally do? Do they not?
I think they stopped doing that.
Well, why don't they do that for the truck race?
Now they're more concerned with having college football games there. That's a whole other story.
well, now, there's
But
actually-
how sick would that be?
it would be cool. I don't know if it would cater to the truck series, because I don't think they would be able to carry the speed through the corners like a World of Outlaw car used to when they did that. But I would like to, and here's my biggest complaint about the dirt races, and I get both sides of this argument. I think in order for it to make sense, you got to have 2. Just like road course racing.
I want to see them after the LCQ. I want to see them stop what they're doing and regrade the track again and then start the feature.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing with any dirt racing is the prep of the track.
Right, but I still think the product is good.
But I think it could be better, is what I'm saying.
And
It could go a lot better.
I don't think you've really been to a lot of dirt track races.
But that's the thing. You shouldn't set the bar based on what you see with a dirt modified or a dirt late model.
I'm
this is a
saying-
NASCAR stock car truck on a dirt track. Your expectations have to match.
Keep them low.
All I'm
You could see
saying-
better action. You could see more. Again, I go back
I
to.
like the heat races because you can see cars
How
down
many
low.
donuts? How
But
many
you don't see
donuts?
cars down low. But there's plenty of contact here. I mean,
Yeah, they drive the crap out of
it's
the trucks.
it's fun. All I'm saying is it could be better. It could be better. That's all I'm saying. It's a fun event. It shouldn't go away. I'm just saying it could be better.
I just don't understand what it takes to satisfy some of you. I don't. I don't
It's one
understand.
of life's little mysteries.
So, and again, like we talked about Stuart
Little.
Friesen going out and having and his team purchasing a truck and being able to try to run this race, I think you got to have at least 2 dirt races to justify the cost and to give guys like Friesen or other dirt racers an opportunity to possibly think about buying a truck and going to partake in some of these races.
I give him that. I mean,
Same
I
thing
agree
with a
with
road
him.
course. There should be 2. You got to make it worthwhile for the team.
How many dirt tracks can handle a NASCAR event?
Only a small handful. I mean, Knoxville was rumored a couple years
Knoxville
ago.
might be able to, but they're not. I don't believe they're a NASCAR track.
No, but
And that's part of the problem with NASCAR is that you have to be
yeah, but you can
part
work
of the
something
club.
out. But I think a lot of
Part of the
people
club.
were worried about ruining the significance of a dirt race. You know, if you had 2 All-Star races, then you would ruin the significance of the first one. So I think that's what some people are arguing.
So you make it a dirt road race.
Ooh.
But I also think part of why the track's prepared the way it is that it makes it easier on the guys that don't normally run dirt. Which is why ARCA does.
Sense.
That's why ARCA does what they do.
Well, ARCA runs on horse tracks. I mean, they're literally.
But they
1 mile
also
horse tracks.
they intentionally make it like a one lane track.
But they still
it's
slide
basically
around. It's still
they slide, but it's closer to an asphalt race than it is a true dirt
Because
race.
the
That's
inside
what I'm
line
getting.
will end up being preferred. Generally.
If you ever seen ARCA, it's very
Arca's kind of
it's kind
wacky.
of awkward. No, I mean the dirt races look awkward. Like ARCA's an extreme example of it not being a true dirt product. Would you agree to that?
I think it's cool. I think watching the ARCA cars on dirt is cool.
No, I'm not.
It's-
It's
it's-
No,
very
it is
cool.
really cool.
No, it
It's
doesn't. It
cool.
doesn't match when you.
I just don't
but-
think it's a good advertisement to say, hey, this is what you're gonna get at a dirt track.
Where do you put
No,
it on a
because
scale
it's
of 1 to
totally-
10?
I don't know. I haven't seen one in a while. I mean, they stopped airing the dirt races. a couple
In a
years ago.
general sense.
But oh man, it's fun. It's different. It's not like here's the thing.
All right, what did you put the
How cool are dirt modifieds on an asphalt track?
Oh.
They're amazing if
Right.
you have
They're
enough.
Great.
Right, but even with the 5 that we had, that was a ridiculous show.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But that's the thing. You're not going to compare it and say, oh well, this is what you normally get with regular asphalt modifieds on a pavement track.
Correct.
No, you change your expectations.
Correct. So when you watch the truck race at dirt, it kind of looks like an asphalt race. That's what I'm saying. They're sliding around a little bit, but not
No, they slide around.
a little
But
bit.
when we take our next break, I'll pull up the highlights from last year, and you really need to tell me
I
that
really
that's what
don't
you're seeing.
Need to.
Wait, Brendan, what did you...
All I see is a 1-lane track. Everybody's at the very top because that's the only place there's any moisture because they don't change the track in the main. Like they need to redo the track.
Okay, well we'll see what
They
happens.
all fight
tomorrow
for
night.
that little one piece of real estate.
I want to know what Brennan rated the Sprint Cup race as.
Well, I was gonna say a 7, maybe a 6 at worst. It wasn't a bad race.
Oh, man.
It was a little crazy at the end, but it wasn't a bad race overall. There was no reason for me to.
So
go
it was above. It was above average.
Oh gosh,
Which is
mom and
what I'm
dad's
saying.
getting a divorce.
all
I
right.
don't mind going
1
through
through
this
10.
argument again.
I'll say a 6.
All right.
There was a ton of there was a ton of passing
we do
at the end.
you made a point off there that we do the rankings and it gets a little stale, but I think it's fun to just kind of see how amazingly
Well, now, all right.
you refuse to say anything bad about anything except the sanctioning body it doesn't do concussion checks.
Well, now here's the other
That's the
thing.
only time I've ever heard you be negative
I
about
want to go
anything.
against Josh with one thing he said here. This is the first of
Bring
two
it. Bring it.
Wednesday night truck races that they're going to have this summer. The next one being at Bristol.
Okay.
I happen to like the idea of a midweek race.
I was about to say that.
Particularly in the summer.
But I guarantee Bristol's going to run a lot quicker.
Right, because they'll usually qualify a lot
It's not going to
earlier,
be
and they'll
4
start at 7:30.
hours of watching this and then oh, good, they're finally going to start the race.
But again, you don't have to watch the prelude to it. You could start at the feature only.
I understand.
like
I
we normally do at
understand, but it
Bristol.
won't be. But
I mean,
it's
the one
so
good thing they do is they give
damn
you
late.
the full experience. You see the heats, you see the last
Right,
chance
just as if you
qualifier.
bought a
It's
ticket.
cool. It's what I want racing to be.
But is the idea of a Wednesday night race appealing to any of you? Because maybe
I like
this
it.
is something that Sprint Cup
I
Series
like
could
it,
do.
and
I
I
like
have
it.
and I have a DVR, so if I fall asleep, I can watch it later.
I don't have the luxury of a DVR, but
Pinky up.
Pinky, yeah,
yeah, I'm down in the pinky down area.
so my official privilege. I didn't check out the door this week.
So, would any of you be in favor of seeing like a Sprint Cup Series race on a Wednesday night?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that is something that's been talked
If
about,
it's
right?
done at a
prime
time-
Yeah, Denny
race.
Hamlin.
if it's done earlier in prime time, not 9 o'clock start for the.
I think the championship race at Homestead should be on like a Friday or a Monday,
I agree.
not a Monday because of football.
Right. Well, and for me, I think in the summer, a lot of people are spending their
And
weekends.
you can't do it Saturday.
doing other things.
Because the Southeast is all about college football.
Right.
That's a huge NASCAR market.
But I mean, like for your like Kentucky race or any track that has lights, if you want to utilize the night portion of their racing venue, I think the middle of the week is perfect.
I think
Why can't your Homestead race, the last race of the year, you don't have to worry about going to a track the next week? Like, you can do this on a week where you don't have anything the week after.
Right.
Because they arrive at tracks Thursday, so you expect them to pack up Wednesday and then go to the next track Thursday, and what if there's rain? But, like, the last race of the year, like, I think Wednesday would be awesome.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and I agree with you.
they should do the Darlington Retro race on like a Wednesday night.
And you're talking November. Like, this is, like, getting towards the playoff races in football. Like, it's as a football fan, it gets tough to want to watch the race.
And I saw a stat.
We don't have that problem.
There's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
With the
I'm not alone, Josh.
no,
There's
just-
way more of me.
unfortunately-
There's way more of me than there are of you.
Is that a fat joke?
You hate. No, you mother.
well, that was like a reverse fat joke reference. That was weird.
I had to work real hard to not drop an F-bomb right there. You hate modifieds and you hate NFL. So
and
you,
dirt
you're,
and
you're a
truck racing at
communist.
ElDora and everything in between.
Oxygen.
No,
You hate
I
oxygen.
want to say I don't hate it. I think it's cool. I just think it could be so much more, and that's what bothers me.
Well, this is only the 4th year they're going to be doing it, so we'll see where it goes from there.
That's all I'm saying is I think it could be so much more.
And the other thing that I wanted to say was with NASCAR going to Indy, the trucks will be racing tomorrow night, or depending on when you're listening to this, Wednesday night. And then the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series will be at Indianapolis. We told you the storyline that Jeff Gordon may be running. That's not official yet. But I saw a report, unconfirmed, from Robin Miller that approximately only 32 to 34,000 tickets have been sold up to this point.
For
That
which?
is almost 10%
That's Sprint Cup
capacity
numbers.
of almost 400,000 people were at Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the 100th running of the Indy 500. We're talking 10%. Less than 10% of that number is currently guaranteed to be at the Cup race on Sunday. That's a problem. That's a big problem.
Look at the product that you've had at that race.
So
I'm talking. No, I'm not going to talk to Brennan anymore because he's going to
Waving his finger.
He's going to say it's a 7 or an 8, and
I did. Last year's race was tough. The finish wasn't that bad, but I think Indy can be a decent race, and I'm actually excited to see what it has to offer with
you
this.
have
aero
room.
package.
It could be, but I don't know. We'll see if the aero package helps. I don't. Nah.
I prefer Pocono over Indy.
They're very similar. I mean, and I think Indy's more prestigious. Like the fact the track is so
It's a
narrow and
horrible
whatnot.
NASCAR
that's-
See, I
track.
don't think so though. I don't. I think.
And
I think if anything,
moving
it takes it away
Xfinity
from
there
Indy.
was.
No, that was a terrible move. And in fact, ARCA will be running Friday night at Lucas Oil Raceway Park, so that'll also be televised.
But
People want to see what
The
Xfinity's
the
used to do.
prestigiousness shouldn't.
Is that a word? I think you just made up a word. The prostidigity.
Listen, Josh, if you had the chance to run a factory stock race at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, would that not mean more to you
That
than
would be
just
such-
going
that would
to
be so
Oxford
horrible,
Plains? No, but seriously, I mean, the Frank.
I
Tibble-
got the travel, the fuel.
That's
the,
not what I'm talking about.
say
I'm
you had
talking
an
about
unlimited
competing at
budget.
the track. Like seriously, it would mean more than running
I
at
don't-
Slinger Speedway in the Midwest.
No, I no.
Come on,
no,
guys.
No, no,
I mean,
no,
this
I
is just
agree.
ganging up on me now.
I agree.
That's all this
I'm
is.
agreeing with you, you effing jerk.
I mean,
Well, no. I believe Indianapolis is a prestigious
But
racetrack.
it's prestigious, but it's,
In its own way,
kind
though.
of a poop show.
well, I mean, look, the Indy 500 has
cars-
only been so amazing for the last 5 or 6 years. The 500 used to be some of those shows because it's a rectangular.
What
flat
some of the
racetrack.
more, if you think of some of the more dramatic things that happen at Indy though, like Ernie Irvan getting a flat tire.
No, the Bodine brothers wrecked each other. I mean, there's some things that did happen that made that.
But
race
I mean, that's
exciting.
over. It was like your sister's like 6th birthday at her first race.
I wasn't
Something
around,
like,
so I
something
don't know.
like that. It's not.
Paul
Was
Menard
it
getting his first
94,
win
was
in
it?
2011.
Right, but
Okay,
none of
all right,
that,
I'll give you that,
It's
Brennan.
not very
That was a good
exciting.
race.
It doesn't really lead to very exciting action. And if you add to the fact that Indy, like the vantage points at Indy are kind of rough.
Well, that I get from a ticket buyer standpoint is, and that's my argument with trying to go to the 500 is there's really hard to get a good seat because you can't you could either see only the front stretch
Your
or
general
everything
race
but
fan,
the front
your
stretch.
general race fan will sit in the thinks the front stretch is the best seat. It's not, guys.
No,
Go
'cause you
sit in a
can't see
turn.
anything.
I've taught this to my cousin. Any track you go to, you should be sitting in a turn. You should not be sitting on the
But
front
you want to know
stretch
what?
ever.
And it makes me. Oh, there you go. Hey, Mike. It makes me upset that they have a great track in Indianapolis Raceway Park or ORP, whatever. I'm a big fan of ORP, IRP, whatever. I really like the track.
Lucas Oil Raceway
It's called
Park.
Lucas Oil Raceway.
See, I'm so out of
And
date.
I planned on going there this weekend, and it was one of the few dark weekends they had.
Yeah,
I was gonna
they
go
got
there
the
Saturday.
USAC race this week.
Yeah.
But I think
Ryan Newman will be in
that track is such a NASCAR. What are you doing? That track should be on the Truck Series and the
Sam.
Xfinity Series. Screw
The problem
big
was
track.
they were willing to keep the Truck Series, but the Truck Series won't bring in enough fans to make it economically viable for them, so they had to give it all up.
So you make a Cup race at IRP or Lucas Oil, whatever the crap they call it
Wasn't
now.
that one O'Reilly at one point?
Yeah, ORP. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, all right, yeah.
Josh smells what I'm
The
stepping
name
in.
changed a lot over the last couple of years.
Well, that track became famous with the old Thursday Night Thunder shows.
But ARCA
But bring it back.
ARCA will be there on Friday, and that race will be televised, so we'll be able to get a little bit of
Things have to
historic
get way more broken than they are now before that happens, Sam. Unfortunately.
Well, sometimes. Okay.
Well,
Like you
I'm
need
not
to
sure I
have, you
wanna
need to have
know.
10,000 people at a Sprint Cup race before stuff like that starts.
and again,
happening.
we could sit here and complain about attendance every week. It's just for Indy. I mean, that's been a
it's
huge.
but I'm not just. I mean, it's a huge story in
we-
NASCAR. That's the reason why we talk about it every week. No one goes. No one's really watching anymore. I know ratings haven't dropped that much, but they are dropping.
But to give people a little bit of perspective, I think NASCAR has been on a different level than, say, IndyCar racing or even Supercross, and they're able to survive with numbers that are probably a third of what the Cup Series is doing. So this isn't a death sentence for the Cup
Well,
Series, but compared to
NASCAR's
what it was,
still making
it's really bad.
NASCAR's still making their old TV money. They're still making their old series sponsor money, which changes this year. We still don't
and
know.
according to an article that I saw in the New York Post, is that they are currently looking for a $1 billion title sponsor.
And why? Okay, so you're going to wine and dine these people. That's how these deals work. They're going to bring them to races, and then they see nobody in the stands. What encouragement is there to put that much money into it?
Yeah.
They're going to show them printouts of TV ratings before they take them to it.
Yeah. Let's not go to the racetrack. Here.
Yeah, really.
Sit in these box seats.
You
where
got to show them
can't-
your fancy office in Daytona, show them all the improvements of Daytona Speedway without people on it. Don't go to a race. I don't know how else you can sell it right now. What can you sell about NASCAR right now?
Pay the people to come to the stands.
It's getting late.
We
too.
all love NASCAR. We all agree on that. But being a realist, NASCAR is hurting.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I'm
A large part of it is product. And
Are they slowly trying to fix it? Yes.
yeah.
It's going to take a long time to get
It's so
fans back.
expensive. It's
yeah, but even
so
if it
expensive.
But even if it levels off where it's at now, it's still sustainable as a sport. It's not like it's
Oh, it's not going to die, but it's not going to be a big deal.
right.
And what happens when
No, I think
what
it still
happens
would
when
be.
an oval version of Formula E comes along and destroys it?
We might be a decade or two away from that. I don't think everybody's completely ready to get rid of.
No, I'm not saying it goes away, but it becomes something like the ASA or something. You never hear about the ASA anymore. It still exists.
Yeah, that I know.
So NASCAR could become something
But-
like that. IndyCar, you
I was about-
didn't live through the decline of IndyCar. IndyCar was bigger than NASCAR, and NASCAR was doing better than they are now.
Yeah.
You didn't live through that.
You could buy it for $65 at Pocono Speedway. You could buy a general admission ticket and a pit pass for the race.
But
And-
ticket prices don't matter.
Yeah,
Sam.
but the thing is, Sam,
You don't
there
think
was
so?
still- there
It
was
does
still
for me.
30,000
I mean,
people in the
for me
stands.
if
it
you
does.
made those tickets
The-
$10, you'd still just you
I
might have a small increase of people, but not a huge.
No, but the
I'll
thing
tell
is,
you, I would be one though. I mean, the 90-something
They are really
dollar
expensive.
to go to Dover.
I would argue that
If you made it like $50, I would go.
I think they have. I think
I
they've.
don't-
They've. So, no,
I'm
no,
just
no.
There
saying
are
where my
some-
budget
have.
is.
There are some used,
Yeah.
but there's plenty of people that can afford it, and they're not going.
No, but that's one thing I've seen.
I agree.
I
I
see
With
agree.
those
And the
DVRs.
problem is, right now they know they're going to get 35,000 people at $90. So you make it $50, and you get 45,000 people. Due to math,
All right, you're
you're
right.
making less money.
You're right.
I'm not arguing you. I'm just saying that I do fit in that.
The argument's always lower the price. You'll get more people. You will, but you'll make less money. So why?
Yeah, but the thing is, I
you
think.
start owning the concessions.
But I think tracks have started lowering that ticket price. Like, seriously, I think the tickets have come down a lot compared to what they used to be. I think Atlanta was offering like a 3-day
The
package
fans
for
have
$100.
been burned for the
With
last
food.
10 years. It's going to take a long time to repair that damage.
Yep.
They're slowly getting in the right direction. They haven't fixed it yet.
Yeah, but I wouldn't even pin it on the tracks at ticket pricing right now.
No.
I don't think that's
That
the
was
issue.
my point. You can make tickets $500. If the product's right, they will come. They will fill the place.
If you build it, they will come.
Bristol tickets were expensive as crap, and they filled the place.
Well, considering the fact that the dirt race will be running tomorrow, I'm sure one person who wishes that he was there with his hands on the action is our buddy Tim O'Shea of O'Shea's Auto Repair. The family man himself has been working on automobiles in the New Jersey area. What town is that? I'm trying to think of the county. The airport's right there. Monmouth County. The Monmouth County area. That's what I wanted to say. Anything from cars, trucks, SUV, domestic, imported, and even race cars. He's got you covered from end to end. You can visit him at O'SheaAutoRepair.com or just come on down to Wall Stadium Speedway, where he is the presenting and title sponsor of the O'Shea Factory Cup and also a proud supporter of the RPM podcast. O'Shea's Auto Repair, powered by our buddy Tim O'Shea. When we come back to the RPM podcast, we're going to wrap up the IndyCar Series weekend at Toronto briefly, and then we'll touch on what was a washout at Wall Stadium Speedway, but the schedule changes that have happened as a result right on the other side of the RPM podcast. Don't go anywhere.
All right, this is Eric Graham from the RPM podcast. Josh and Eric Brennan won't leave me alone until I do one of these read things. So, follow us at Facebook. Either search RPM Podcast, go to facebook.com/Racing Podcast New Jersey. Hopefully this sounds freaking organic enough for Josh because he won't leave me the hell alone about it. But here's your read. Follow us on Facebook. Do it now.
Welcome back to the RPM podcast. Once again, I'm Eric Brennan, joined by Eric Graham, Sam Ballard, and Josh Matthews. We're in the home stretch of our 21st go-around. We were hoping to be joined tonight by Vinny Troia. However, unfortunately, he had some schedule changes, so we will push him back hopefully to next week, considering how his work schedule goes as well. Also, Vinny, I want to thank you personally. You put a little decal up for my nephew on his race car, which is pretty awesome, so that was cool.
That is pretty cool.
Now, before we jump into Wall Stadium Speedway and what we have going on there, or what we didn't have going on there last week, we want to talk about the IndyCar Series race, which took place on the streets of Toronto after they had a track change in the final corner, something which barred havoc on a number of drivers, including Juan Pablo Montoya and Charlie Kimball throughout the weekend. They ended up trying to smooth some of that out. And when the race began, it looked like Scott Dixon was going to run away with it, but unfortunately some poor pit strategy put him in a precarious position and handed the race over to Will Power.
Say that 5 times fast.
I think I did pretty good. However, there were a couple things to take away from that race. One of which, of course, was the great run by James Hinchcliffe, who finished third. The local Canadian driver had a fantastic run. The other, which was perhaps rather shocking, was watching Josef Newgarden make a mistake in turn 5, a turn that was, as you mentioned off air, Sam, coming apart and clouding the wall. Fortunately, we read today on Racer.com that Newgarden has been cleared to continue racing, after it looked like he was struggling throughout the week anyway. But unfortunately for him, it looks like his championship bid is over. There was a couple other things that we were taking out from that race. I don't know if anybody wants to jump up and grab at anything.
Well, Newgarden, it looked like he half launched off of that.
He got
curb
worn
that-
out. His wrist gave way.
Yeah,
He was very
He
hurt.
he couldn't. He pretty much
They
lost his
thought he was
grip.
hurt, and he was just really, really mad at himself. So he kind of quit. I know. Sam wants to talk about something.
Yeah, I'm bobbing the softball, Sam.
Yeah.
It's not swinging. What's going on?
Well, I mean, I wanted to see what you guys wanted to say first, but that stupid pit line move coming out of the pits, it gets me more frustrated than Eric eating a hot dog with a bun.
That is pretty bad.
Yeah, it's pretty disappointing.
Well, what Sam's referring to is when cars were coming off the pit lane, they were going across the blend line that they have on these,
lack
these road
thereof.
street courses. And
Show them what blending really looks
Eric,
like.
you actually made a good point since they set the precedence way back at Long Beach, which seems like it was yesterday.
Which I had an
Yeah.
Eric rant after they did that.
Yeah, when they allowed Simon
And I
Pagenaud to
believe
get
you
by
guys
with
were
it.
standing up for the call they made.
Dumbasses.
Or you might not, but I think you were.
I don't remember.
He
I'll have to go
gained
back
an
to the-
advantage from that.
Somebody was standing up for the call.
Quick, Brendan,
Yeah, I thought.
cue up our
Yeah, cue up
episode.
episode 12.
Well, you're the official. You're usually airing on the side with other officials all the time, so I thought it was you.
No, I said
have
they.
you
I
met
said
Eric Graham?
I
He
said
does-
they set a horrible precedent doing that.
Right,
Yeah.
and it appears that precedence is carrying on.
Now they
towards the
had
end.
to make the call they made in Toronto.
Now, the one thing I will give the IndyCar Series a ton of credit for is that when the final yellow came out with about 3 or 4 laps to go, when it involved Jack Hawksworth and Juan Pablo Montoya, They rushed to get those cars off the track so we could have a one-lap shootout. Turned out to be a moot point because Will Power had 6 push-to-passes left at the end, and he was able to hold off Elio Castro-Neves, who finished second, and, of course, Hinchcliffe rounded out the podium in third. Pagano was also a victim of that pit strategy that bit Scott Dixon, so he actually finished towards the middle of the pack. Will Power's up to second in points. It would be something to see him win a championship despite winning the season opener or missing the season opener.
Right. So did Sam finish his rant?
No, that really was it. I mean, give Will Power a chase waiver and let him race for the championship.
You're at the wrong series.
Sam's new, folks, so we'll get him.
That was a joke, by the way. That was a joke.
Yeah, don't tell your brother Nick that.
Yeah.
He'll take it
Well, no,
serious.
I just think that it's ridiculous. Not like what Eric said about the whole line rule, and now they have to just keep doing it, and they're just going to keep doing this until
You're a newer official. I'm 7 years in, so I'm still considered a newish official. It's something you have to learn, that when you set a precedent, when you make a decision, you have to say to yourself, all right, this is how I'm going to do it from this point forward. I don't think they thought of that when they made that call.
yeah, it's like crappy parenting. It's just going to keep.
Well, what was the call? What was the incident?
Well,
what was the call?
It was at Long Beach.
No, I know that one, but what was
it?
this?
Was the same thing as Long Beach.
Was it
That's what
close? What was it? At least kind of close.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I didn't get a chance to
the
see
precedent was made that you don't really have to respect the line.
Yeah.
So
What line? And then
right.
even for the
you know if you do it,
broadcasters-
you're going to get a warning. So you get one chance to do it a race now.
Yeah, even like the broadcasters, they said, "Oh, is that a patch on the track? Is that the blend-in line? What is it?" Because
it wasn't well
it
defined.
was just a mess.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be yellow. Eric Brennan said at a curb. I think that's a great idea.
If you do it in
sticks to the
Formula
track.
One, you're going to get a drive-through.
Yeah.
The precedent was set.
You could put a temporary bunch of sandbags or something there,
or you
that'll
could just
suck.
make it a penalty.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the spotters will be saying we'll be clearing them.
Yeah.
Well,
but the precedent was set that you're just going to get a warning.
That's the problem. Is they almost have to wait
now
until next season.
Now they know if I get one chance a race that I can cut somebody off here and I'll just get a slap on the wrist.
And I mean, let's be honest now. How many pit stops do Indy cars normally take anyway?
Two, three.
Exactly. So
Right.
that's at least 1/3 of the time.
You get to choose one of them.
Exactly. So another reason why IndyCar put their foot in their mouth on this one.
Well, then
I don't like insulting officials, but I think there's a lesson here for all officials that be careful of the precedent you set.
It's just, I mean, I agree with you, but it comes to the point where, even when I don't really watch, I watch IndyCar, it just stinks when, I see it happening and it just keeps going and going. It's like a bad movie. It just keeps going.
Or a bad podcast.
Like the Energizer Bunny?
Yeah.
Well, the IndyCar Series next event will be in 2 weeks' time at Mid-Ohio. As for this weekend's racing calendar, we talked to you about ElDora, where the trucks are practicing as we record right now. It turns out a lot of guys are getting up into the fence. In fact, some might cut their second practice short, which is ongoing. We also have
to build another truck.
The Cup Series and the Xfinity Series at Indianapolis, which, Sam, you mentioned earlier. We didn't talk about Kyle Busch getting another Xfinity win at New Hampshire. Formula One will be back in action at the Hungarian Grand Prix. IMSA will have a split series event at Lime Rock Park, where I think the prototypes stay
And
home.
that may be the race of the weekend.
Lime Rock's a great track.
Pretty much anything that happens at Lime Rock. They could have a tricycle race there, and it'd be exciting.
I think
they'll
VIR
go
is
with that.
pretty interesting.
Yes, but nothing beats Lime Rock.
The
in my
NHRA is
opinion.
back in action in the Mile High area of Denver. And, of course, the AMA Outdoor Motocross will be in action at Washougal. So that's the national racing calendar.
Bless you.
On the local scale, we already talked about the rainout that took place at Wall Stadium Speedway this past weekend, which I
actually
kinda
was
jinxed.
kind of lucky because New Egypt, I don't think, had anything planned this Saturday. This is a rare night off for them anyway.
I think that was last Saturday.
Yeah, last Saturday.
Was it last?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So it was
No.
kind of unlucky. New Egypt was off last week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
Which
it
would've
worked
been-
out.
but
They
would've been
would have
good
got.
would have been good for Wall.
Well, yeah. Well, yes. But what I'm saying is, for them, it was lucky because they not having anything planned, they would have probably gotten rained out anyhow.
right. Nah, I get what
That's
you're
what I was getting at. So I don't know what happened down in Bridgeport. I think Lee Allen did get the win in the 8-cylinder enduro down there.
You had an offer to drive in that, didn't you?
I got a last-minute message. I say last minute. It was a couple hours. Last hour message from your buddy Vinny Troya. Say, hey, do you want to run a car down at Bridgeport tonight? I'm like, hell yeah, I want to. but I was at work, and honestly, I got home, I want to say, just before 9 o'clock that night. Between, just, it was a little last minute for me, work commitments and whatnot. But where I'm working it would take me probably about an hour to get home. And then it's an hour and a half, because I would need to pick up all my gear, my helmet, all that, fire suit, everything. And then it's an hour and a half down to to Bridgeport. So, I mean, already 2.5 hours in to that, plus, gathering stuff, making sure I actually have it, because I don't want to go down there and find I don't have, I'm missing a shoe or something like that. But, and then turns out there was a few accidents southbound on the Parkway, which caused me to be delayed even further.
Benny's.
So, yeah, those damn people from Staten Island.
I resent that. Now,
You resemble that.
Hey, I got to be
resent-
reverse
I
Benny. What was it, yesterday? Yeah. I got to invade your territory. So,
Well, at least you had the opportunity to go on and, perhaps have an opportunity to get back in the race car because it's been a while.
I really wanted to, and I want to thank Vinny Troya and Lee Allen and Bill Stockert and everybody that's been involved running down there. I was excited. It just, it was too last minute, unfortunately. I mean, if I'd known, let's say a day prior, I could have maybe had gear ready with me or something. And, and not to mention, I had to drop off my work truck anyway to get in my personal truck to go down there. So I couldn't just skip, stopping at my house, unfortunately. But yeah, no, I mean it was great to have an opportunity. It just unfortunately didn't work out, and I'm hoping to maybe try to put something.
What Josh
together.
is trying to say is, please invite me again.
Yeah,
That was a long way of Josh saying, please invite me again, and I will come next time.
just trying to give everybody acknowledgement.
Well, as Josh mentioned earlier, the big night for the factory stocks that was planned was moved to September 10th. And in fact, if you go onto the WorldSpeedwayRacing.com, the whole schedule has kind of been changed. But I'm telling you, and I'm not saying this because I am a little bit of a suck up, but the track did a great job by getting this ironed out now, so people could start planning. Because I mean, they've had 4 rainouts already. So with that, you got a lot of stuff you're going to have to make up, and they kind of spread it out in the perfect fashion. And this week's schedule is going to remain unchanged. 40 laps for the 4-cylinder division. The ATQ MRA will be back on the Inner Oval. The Downs Ford Modifieds will be in action as well. Snap-on Tool Sportsman division, Green Flag Driving Experience Legend Cars, as well as an over 40 Legend Car feature, another annual event that the track often has.
But the factory stocks will be taking that week off. I kind of wish they would condense part of the factory stock event, the triple 25s, to maybe a 50 lapper, or I want to see more of an enduro style event one night. I mean, if they're going to change the rules and have a cone race one night, I mean, why couldn't you do an enduro-style event?
I don't think the competitors like enduros
Unfortunately. They're a lot of fun.
because your car's stuck out there, and so people really don't want to do it.
Now, I understand some...
There is a 50-lap factory stock event already on the calendar for Saturday, August 13th.
August 13th.
So perhaps that's why. Because then you would end up having 2 50-lappers within a span of 5 weeks.
I say make it 100
But that's
lap.
a race, not an enduro.
Yeah.
And then we do have a lot of non-Wall Stadium fans, so or maybe even non-short track fans. I know a couple of those that follow us too. And enduro means there's no yellows. So
it's red or green.
It's red or green. So basically, if a car gets stuck on the track, then you have to work your way around it. So I mean, it's pretty cool as a fan to watch. Unfortunately, these guys that put a lot of money into their race cars that race every week, they don't want to get involved in that because your car gets disabled and all of a sudden it's stuck on the track. And it does happen where you're just there and then all of a sudden people start piling into you and then your car is destroyed for nothing wrong that you did besides having something break.
Yeah. Although they are incredibly entertaining to watch. I mean, it's a little redneck, I'll admit that. But
Watching NASCAR drinking beer.
I just want to shift gears for one moment and perhaps to talk about
you don't want to
something-
grind them?
No. Something really quick and serious that came up yesterday. We just want to send our thoughts and prayers to the family of Chris Lane, whose mother passed away unexpectedly over the weekend. Deborah Lane was 61 years old. Also, we're sending our thoughts and prayers to Eric Lane, who was Deborah's nephew, as well as Jeff Lane, Eric's father, and the entire Lane family. We're thinking about you. I know we have a lot of fun. We say a lot of stupid things on here, but real life does get in the way. We learned that the hard way, and this is one of those circumstances. And if you see Chris Lane in the pit area, head on over and shake his hand and give him a hug because that's tough, really tough, and we're thinking about you.
I mean, I don't know how he feels about hugs, but you can definitely give him your condolences. I mean, if you like hugs, then yeah, go give him some hugs. But he might reject that. I don't know him well enough to know if he's a hugger like yourself.
Well, there you go. So,
but yeah, they're a great family, and I think I speak for all of us, and Eric speaks for all of us, saying we're sorry for your loss. And hopefully we'll see you at the track. And
there really is no way to transition out of this, so we're just going to have to do it
Well,
on the
almost.
run.
I mean, there's nothing
So-
like the racing family. I mean, the people that you have to support you there. I mean, and as they go around the pits, I mean, I think
that's
You'll see
something Eric Brennan's experiencing now with his nephew, and he's seeing how many people are stepping up to help him, you know, and
It's unbelievable.
how many people are wearing these bands, you know,
I got mine.
and
Yeah, and also, well, not to turn this into something about me and my nephew and everything, but just since you mentioned it, Sam, thank you for kind of representing me last week and giving people the option to obtain some of those wristbands. I really
you're welcome.
appreciate it.
yeah, you were getting drunk, and he was doing all the dirty work for you.
I was at a wedding, okay? And the
What were you
drunk
doing
just
at the
happened to
wedding?
come
What does
after-
anybody do at a wedding? I mean,
But hey, back to Wall. The TQs put a great show on. You guys should come and make it out. I mean,
Oh,
it's
down
been
at
a
the,
great week, great weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mother Nature cooperated. In fact, it might cooperate a little too good. Weather's supposed to be in the mid to high 90s. Is
Oh, that's
what I
fine.
saw. So,
yeah, but it'll be. That means
That's
that
fine,
means if-
says the non-driver.
well, I'm
I'll be checking for underwear. So
just saying.
I don't even want to bring it up.
What?
That sometimes heats cause issues for us in the past. So,
Well,
93 degrees.
yeah.
Well, I've always loved Diane's come out a couple times and handing out
Brings
the
the
ice
ice
pops.
pops,
That is a treat. I mean, and it's great that they actually think of the drivers and they try to.
And
help
I
out
mean,
like
it's
that.
something
That's
we
great.
added last year, where if there's a red flag, we'll bring water out to the drivers, and we'll definitely be doing that. Is there a sportsman race this weekend?
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll have the water ready, guys.
Well, with that, we want to thank
I didn't
everybody.
make the sportsman joke. He did.
We're
I just had to know if I had to fill the cooler or not. I'll be prepared.
Well, with that, we're hoping to talk with our buddy Vinny Troya next week. If work cooperates, we're also hoping to have a few other people on as the show continues to grow and move forward.
If you guys have ideas for interviews, or if you want to be interviewed yourself, let us know.
There you go, Eric. It's a
Yeah.
good way to just
Email
throw
us.
something out there.
Would you say no? Who would you say no to an interview to?
Nobody. Well, there's
Thank you.
that girl that works at Wawa down the road, though. She might be a tough sell.
Derpy.
We gotta go. On behalf of Josh Matthews,
Now we're
Sam
gonna be hearing
Ballard,
who's Derpy all weekend.
Eric Graham, I'm Eric Brennan.
Think the Swedish chef.
I want to wish you all a fantastic week. Thank you for bearing with us.
Pork.
And we'll see you next Tuesday, or I don't know when. Good night, everybody.